the Wisconsin Supreme Court. We actually have seen what an activist liberal court looks like. We've seen what happens when Shirley Abramson, the Chief Justice, has a majority. We actually got national attention for being one of the most activist states in the country. The Wall Street Journal ran an editorial calling us Alabama North because our court was coming up with legal theories that existed nowhere else in the country. Every single thing that you have worked for, that you have fought for, every election you have won, can be negated by a left-wing activist majority in the Wisconsin Supreme Court. And as Brad just mentioned, we came this close to losing one of the best justices, David Prosser, in that election for Supreme Court. If it wasn't for Brookfield, Wisconsin, you kind of remember that, the thing, you know, Waukesha. I know you're in Milwaukee County, but I always make jokes about the Waukesha, you know, votes coming in a little bit late. Maybe it comes in, you know, 2 or 3 days late. But we came this close to having every single thing that the conservative legislature did, that Governor Walker did, negated by an activist Supreme Court. And make no mistake about it, there are justices on that court, including incumbent Justice Ann Walsh Bradley, who is just waiting for the opportunity to legislate once again from the bench, which is why this election this spring is so absolutely crucial. And I think we are extremely fortunate in having an articulate, principled, experienced judge as Judge Daley running for the Wisconsin Supreme Court. And please do not let this fall off your radar screen. It is my honor to introduce to you Judge Daley.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. I'm Judge Jim Daley, and I'm running to bring some common sense and humility back to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Let me begin by telling you a bit about my life and my qualifications to be your next Supreme Court Justice. I was appointed to the Circuit Court on January 5th, 1989 by Governor Thompson. I've been re-elected 5 times since then, and I have 26 years experience making complex legal decisions. Before that, I was elected 3 terms as the Rock County Republican District Attorney. I also bring to the table 36 years of military experience, including service as an enlisted Marine infantryman in Vietnam, and I retired from the Wisconsin Army National Guard as a Brigadier General. I'm most proud in my life of my family. I'm married to my wife Shirley. We raised 4 daughters in Janesville, which means I had 23 years of my life without a hot shower. 2 of my daughters also served in the armed forces, 1 in the Marine Corps and 1 in the U.S. Army and in Iraq. The women in my life have been the rocks which have enabled my life to be centered, focused, and stable. H.L. Mencken once joked that judges are just law students who get to grade their own tests. There's some truth to this. When judges make decisions, we don't have a lot of oversight. The lack of oversight gets even worse the higher a judge goes. So that the temptation for a judge to believe that they're the highest arbiter of right and wrong only gets stronger. That's why it's so dangerous for us when we have a justice like Ann Walsh Bradley, who goes to our Supreme Court and then decides to change Wisconsin into her own image. Instead of upholding the rule of law, she has consistently relied upon her own prejudices to overturn the will of the people of the state. Let me give you 3 examples of Justice Bradley's unchecked judicial activism. First, the lead paint decision. She voted to throw out of the window hundreds of years of established law in order to find a Wisconsin corporation liable for an injury that they couldn't be proved to have caused. This resulted in some Wisconsin workers losing their jobs. Then, in the Act 10 decision, she voted for the dissent, and she attempted to prevent that law from being implemented. And the fact of the matter is, she was completely wrong in that decision, and she tried to undo the legislature and Governor Scott Walker's reasonable governmental reforms. Then in the voter ID decision, she again voted with a dissent and attempted to prevent that law from being implemented. If she'd had her way, it would have kept Wisconsin's electoral system wide open for fraud and abuse. These are just 3 examples from Justice Bradley's career of unchecked judicial activism, in which she has plainly shown us that she has really contempt for the rule of law. That is a career that we must bring to an end. Now, when candidates, when they stand before you, will provide us with flowery lists of promises, a litany, if you will, of all the great and wonderful things they're going to do once we put them in office. I'd like to take a different approach with you this evening. I'd like to tell you the things that I'm not going to do as your next Supreme Court Justice. First, I am not a judicial activist. I will not use my seat on the Supreme Court to overturn the will of the people of the state in favor of my own personal beliefs. I will instead hold fast to the rule of law and expect other officials to do the same. I will not legislate from the bench. The rule of law must be put ahead of individual beliefs, personal agendas, or partisan politics. Justices must not be legislators. And last, I will never throw needless roadblocks in front of our dedicated law enforcement officers who would daily risk their lives to protect our families. And with 51 sheriffs from around this state already endorsing my candidacy, and with the Milwaukee Police Unit endorsing my candidacy, I am law enforcement's choice to be your next Supreme Court Justice. I don't wish to think that this is going to be easy. It will not be easy. It will be a hard-fought campaign. But with 36 years of military experience, I'm not afraid of a hard fight, as long as the cause is just, necessary, and vital. This election is not only just, it's most necessary and extremely vital for our future and the future for our children and our grandchildren. Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes once wrote that the greatest act of faith is when a man understands that he is not God. I believe a judge's greatest act of faith in our republic is when he or she understands that they are not put on the bench to be either a king or a queen. I believe our Supreme Court under N. Walsh Bradley has lost that faith. That's why on April 7, 2015, I intend to return that faith to that court. That's why I'm asking you for your vote and your support. But I would be negligent without adding one other thing. The other thing on the ballot that day will be the constitutional amendment on how we select Chief Justices. My opponent has come strongly against that provision. It's up to the people to decide. She believes it's purely partisan politics. My answer to that is, I like democracy. I think it's a great idea. I think justices should have democracy also, so they can elect their own Chief Justice to represent them to the people of the state of Wisconsin, to the legislature, and to the executive. It is something which we must vote yes to on April 7th, 2015. Thank you very much.